2024. And as always, well done for making it this far. Hey, Diz, I'm a bit hyper today. So am I. It just, it just happens. And Alistair says, afternoon, badgers. And Katrina says, afternoon, everyone. Well, not for me, because it's the morning for me, Katrina. So, yeah, morning, Katrina, in the afternoon, where you are, you time-traveling peeps. We've also got hello, peeps and badgers from Victoria Townsend. And we've also got Hornet saying, I can understand greed and seeking to dodge tax and having a thin skin and stoking one's on ego, but that was just completely on another level. Diz was talking about, I don't know, he's playing a dangerous game. Oh, Musk. Yeah, after the events of recent years, it's quite difficult to shock me, but what Musk tweeted yesterday about Vindman has managed to hit that threshold. So let's talk about that for a moment. This is Musk saying that someone has to pay the consequences for some made-up bullshit that he's just made up, like a commandant in a concentration camp. He's just made up a crime that someone has committed, and then he's written on his social media forum that they must face the consequences, or words to that extent. I mean, this is deeply disturbing, isn't it? Like, this is the mind of a man who has fallen so far down the K-hole, he'll probably never get back out. I think personally, whoever was supplying Matthew Perry with his ketamine supply should be let out of jail just for a few months. Just saying. But like, yeah, Musk is a very, very dangerous, probably the most dangerous man in the world at the moment. He's the richest man in the world, and he's got a absolutely devoted cult of followers who think he is the bee's knees, the dog's bollocks, the bee's bollocks. When he's not. He's the Edison of his day. He doesn't invent anything. He just steals inventions off other people. He just takes credit for other people's achievements. He takes so much money from the US government. It's mind-blowing. Not just for every Tesla that's sold, they get about $7,000 off the US taxpayer, but also for his SpaceX bullshit, where he said that he could get rockets into space for a fraction of the price it was costing the US to pay the Russians to take rockets up from Kazakhstan. And actually, it's costing 4 times the amount that it was originally costing to go with the Russians. Obviously, the situation with the Russians has got a bit more complex recently because of the invasion of Ukraine, and also because they're no longer going to be looking after the maintenance of their section of maintenance of the International Space Station. So the International Space Station is going to fall into low Earth orbit very soon, and cease to be a thing that we can actually go and use to do scientific experimentation. And Musk is an absolute menace. But you wouldn't know that if you talk to the crypto bros and tech heads who think that he is the second coming of Caligula, maybe the second coming of Nero, the second coming of I don't know, who's a terrible leader who led his people off a cliff. Hitler. He is the ultimate triumph of the nepo babies. His dad owned an apartheid era emerald mine in southern Africa, and he went to a private prep school in Pretoria, obviously privately educated, of course, they all are. Like every dickhead that you ever see, right? Check if they went to private school. And honestly, 99% of them went to private school. It is just bizarre. You've got occasional Neanderthals who didn't go to private school, or Suella Braverman who didn't go to private school, who just turn out wrong. But like the vast majority of dickheads that will cause you harm in life, not just dickheads who push in front of you in a queue, or steal the last shopping trolley as you're walking towards it, or anything like that. I'm not talking about like a day-to-day inconvenience. I'm talking about people who are strangers to you, who don't know you from Adam, and yet seem to be set on messing up your life. Seriously, check it out. Check out privateschoolmafia.com, see if their name's on the list. I guarantee that 99 times out of 100 it will be. I've just sat and watched the majority of a 2-hour debate about Ukraine and I'm wound up about Russian propaganda. Please cheer me back up, Graham. Well, we're going to talk about reasons to be cheerful, right? First of all, mortality. There's something to be cheerful. The famous line from Watchmen, where Ozymandias said, we did the right thing though, didn't I? You know, in the end. And Dr. Manhattan says, oh, Adrian, you dickhead. I'm paraphrasing here. Nothing ever ends. That's not true. That's not true. Dr. Manhattan's talking bollocks there. Like, things do end, and that's the beauty of life in a way. Although all good things will come to an end, all bad things come to an end as well. Like, eventually Trump will no longer be with us because he'll have shuffled off this mortal coil. He'll have joined the quiet invisible. He'll be pushing up the daisies. He'll be brown bread. He'll have carked it. He'll have, you know, how many different ways can I put this without it turning into the Dead Parrot sketch? Like, essentially, he will no longer be with us. He'll be bereft of life. And which, you know, that kind of gives me hope. That kind of gives me hope. And here's something, right? We sort of feel like everything always ends in tragedy, don't we? Everything always ends in tragedy. We know this because eventually we're going to die. All our friends are going to die. Everyone we know will die. You know, as the song goes, everyone you know will someday die. So instead of saying all your goodbyes, let them know you realise that life is fast and it's hard to make the good things last. And I think that's very true. Like, make the most out of what's going on now. And I try and compartmentalize what's happened in the world, what's happening in my life, and all the things that I've done and all the things, I see them as chapters in a book, okay? Because everything ends, right? Everything ends. Don't listen to Dr. Manhattan, listen to 6 Feet Under. Everything ends. And good and bad, it ends. But we've got to stop concentrating on the end. We talk about a failed marriage because after 20 years it broke down. What about the 20 years that they were together and having a pretty good time? You know, that should be celebrated. You know, they talk about someone who's died and we say, oh, you know, it's terrible that they died. And yes, it is. It's terrible that they died. But at least you had that time with them. At least you had, you know, however long that time was. It might not have been long, but at least you shared those moments on this earth with that person. And no one can take that away from you. Well, apart from dementia, but that's not somebody, you know, externally, really. And the way that I look at past relationships, the way I look at phases, periods in my life, whether things have gone good or things have gone bad, I try not to focus on the end, right? On the fact that it didn't work out. Businesses always end in failure. Like, but what about the 10 years that you were a really successful little cafe serving loads of drinks and everyone was having a good time, you know? My dad's business in the 90s was selling carburetors. Weber, Solex, Dell'Orto, Nicky carburetors. And like, that was a product of its time. But then cars became more and more fuel injection. So there was no need for a carburetor. So eventually it became something that would only supply classic cars that needed these old carburetors, that we could like dig out this old Solex downdraft carburetor from the 1930s or something that would fit onto this, whatever it was, that, you know, Mercedes, Ferrari, whatever it was, that was this old car that needed it. So you could look at that and go, well, that was a failure then, wasn't it? You were selling something that people weren't going to be buying anymore. But no, they had a few good years, you know, quite a few good years of when people needed those things and they bought them. And then I'm always brought back to this moment in my life that will stay with me forever because it's just such a great line. It's such a great line. And it was from a guy called Chestnut Brown, who anyone who's from Liverpool here, who's ever drank on Lark Lane, will probably know Chestnut Brown. He is the people's poet. He goes around pubs and bars and things in Liverpool, particularly around the Lark Lane area, and he writes poetry. Basically, he busks poetry. It's absolutely brilliant. Ernie Burns, if you're watching this, you will love him. And he'll come along to your table and he'll say, okay, I'm going to write a poem for you. What do you want me to write a poem about? So it might be, oh, it's this person's birthday, or this has happened, or this has happened. And he'll write a poem, and if you like the poem, you give him some money. So you might give him a fiver for writing the poem, and he'll be like, thank you very much, and we go off, right? Everyone gives a quid, whatever. And he wrote a poem for me once. This was over 20 years ago now, okay? And basically, I had split up with my girlfriend at the time, and I was a bit down. And my mate to take me out to cheer me up, you know, have a drink, as you do. And not always the best way to cheer yourself up. And Chestnut came in, and he was like, oh, yeah, because we kind of, you know, you and by sight, whatever. And he said, should we write him a poem? And one of my mates said, yeah, Graham's just split up with his girlfriend. Let's write a poem about that. So we did. And one of the lines in it that just always stayed with me was this: look at the donut, not the hole. I thought, that's brilliant. This, you know, when a poem, you know, it speaks to you on so many levels. He's probably written that a million times to a million different people, but to me, it really resonated. Like, if you have a donut, don't look at the fact it's got a hole in the middle and go, where's the rest of my donut? You've got a donut. You've got a donut. Look at the donut, not the hole. And that's the way I look at it. And this is why I think there's a few things coming together here. All things end. Even this, that great line from Lord of the Rings where, you know, Frodo says to Gandalf, you know, I wish I didn't have to live in these times. And Gandalf says, well, you know, that's everyone who lives through times like this feels that way. And it's not for us to judge, you know, it's just the way it is. But all that matters is what we do with the time that we're given. And we're not going to get this time again. This isn't a rehearsal. Like, you know, I don't believe in the afterlife. This is it. This is it. Every second of every day, this is the time. This is the time that you have on this planet to affect some kind of change and leave some kind of legacy that's positive, whether that is children or whether that's you know, some creative arts, or whether it's, you know, just being a decent person and spreading decency, not necessarily love. All right, I might be going a bit far, but like decency around the world. And there's a really sort of human aspect to this of like just being a decent person makes other people decent. And there's a converse of this, obviously, because if you're a knobhead, it kind of gives license for other people to be knobheads. That's why rugger buggers in university move around in groups of dickheads, and they give each other license to be dickheads because one of them will do something really fucking horrible and obnoxious, and then all the rest of the rugger buggers will be like, oh yeah, let's do something. So they rile themselves up. We saw this in the Milgram experiment. Was it the Milgram experiment? No, the Stanford prison experiment, where people egged each other on they were prison guards and prisoners. And they had to end the experiment after a few days because the people who were nominated to be prison guards were just turning into absolute sadists and causing physical harm to the pretend prisoners who weren't even real prisoners. They were just, you know, they were just given these roles. So on the flip side of that is that, you know, even though nastiness and being horrible and doing a pile-on on Twitter, which is famous for its pile-ons, you know, that electricity goes through. No, I mean like pile on to someone. Because people gave license to each other to be horrible. So your job and my job and everyone else's job who's, you know, on the side of decency is to be decent in the next few years. And hopefully that decency, and I say hopefully, no, it will, that decency will rub off onto other people. Because people subconsciously think that's a decent person, that they did a decent thing there, they did a nice thing there, maybe I should do nice things too. And then people will think of me the way I think of them. And that's really powerful. It's soft power. It's tacit. It's not it's not explicit. You don't go around going, I'm going to do nice things now to make you do nice things. It doesn't quite work that way. But that kind of pay it forward mentality, just, you know, having a smile for people, just being generous, being kind, helping out in situations, just those little small acts of kindness really do resonate through society. And I'm not blowing smoke up your arse by saying that. It is absolutely true. And I think now, with the likes of Musk and Trump in power in the world, Putin and Erdogan and Modi and all these other gobshites, bloody dickhead in Hungary, Orban, oh my God, you know, now more than ever, it is our duty, I see, to be kind, as kind as possible, not to Trump, he can fuck off, but to, each other, and treat people with respect, give them the positivity that they need, because we are going to really need some positivity over the next few years. And so this is my spiel. This is my reasons to be cheerful. I do have an innate faith in humanity. And if I ever doubt that, I think back to my travels and how many people helped me, even though they had fuck all in their own lives, they still went out of their way to help me out. I mean, people invited me back to their homes to have food with their family. People helped me get on the right bus. They just helped me like every step of the way. And I couldn't have done that journey without the assistance of literally thousands of people, thousands of strangers who didn't know me, had nothing to do with me. I stumbled into their village one day and they helped me. And that's the default setting for humanity. Most people want to be liked. Most people want to be seen as a good person by other people. However, Trump and Musk and all that lot have hacked that desire. And in the same way that the 9/11 attackers thought they were doing the right thing, the kamikaze pilots flying their planes into American warships thought they were doing the right thing. The Japanese women going to the edge of the cliff with their children in islands in the Pacific and jumping off before the Americans had a chance to get a foothold on the island, thought they were doing the right thing. They thought they were doing good. Every suicide bomber that's ever been thinks that they're going to some magical VIP area of this heaven place or the Elysian fields or whatever they believe in. They think they're doing a good thing. The 9/11 hijackers, they honestly thought that the people that they killed that day, the 3,000 people that they murdered, men, women, and children, they believed that they were going to a special part of the afterlife that was reserved for people who died a hero's death or something. And they convinced themselves that they were doing the right thing. They thought they were doing a good thing. And that's where we have to step in and say, this is doing a good thing. This is definitely not doing a good thing. All those people who voted for Trump, they thought that they were doing a good thing by voting for Trump. They thought they were helping their country in the same way that the people who voted for the Nazis in the 1930s thought that they were doing the best thing for Germany. They thought, this Weimar Republic, it's not done very well. We just had this massive credit crunch, or whatever they called it back then, Great Depression. We just had this period of hyperinflation. This democracy thing doesn't seem to be working too well. Let's try something else. So, yeah. And it's really important as well that we're there for our American friends over the next few years, because although I'm talking about my eulogy to America and just saying goodbye, and it's been nice. It's been nice knowing you for the last 246 years. I think 48 years. I think it is. At the same time, I've got friends in America, really good friends in America, who are going to be going through it, who are really going to be going through it, because they're not, ignorant dickheads, yodeling in the Swiss Alps, yokels with a moon in a bucket. They're not white necessarily. They're not cis. They're not heterosexual. They're not. I don't know. They have a college degree. And yeah, their lives are now going to be permanently disrupted by this vote, in the same way that people's lives were permanently disrupted by the Brexit vote. And the people who voted for Brexit will never apologise for that. The people who voted for Trump will never apologise for voting for him, no matter how bad it gets. No matter how bad it gets, they will always convince themselves that they were right. But, everyone likes to think of themselves as a good person. It's up to us to show what a good person actually is. Someone who stands up for minorities, someone who stands up for women's rights, gay rights, trans rights. I see XY Rowling has been whinging again about another black athlete who she deems not feminine enough looking. What a bitch. What an absolute fucking arsehole that woman has turned out to be. And this is a woman who's had gender affirming care herself, because she's had shitloads of plastic surgery. You can see it in her face. Okay, should we ban all women who have had plastic surgery from using the women's toilets? Because are they really women? Are they, JK? Are they? How dare she? How fucking dare she? This is the third non-white athlete this year that she has misgendered in public, and I think Musk went along with it as well, because of course he has, because he's a fucking gobshite and he's mortified that his daughter turned out trans. I think Graham Linehan's got a similar story. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but something along those lines. Oh, Alistair, thank you very much for the £20 soil funds for the island. Woo! Yay, thank you, Alistair. We had 8 loads come yesterday, 8 loads of 80 bags. I don't know if any of you follow me on Facebook, but I posted a time-lapse video of me and Ishmael basically bringing wheelbarrows full of soil from this bit of the island, from the boat dock, wheelbarrows full all the way to near the house, and dumping it on the ground that needs to be covered with new soil because the old soil's kind of messed up. And it's only like 3 minutes long, and it's hyperlapse, so it's, it's sped up, and it just does not convey just how difficult that was. It was 31 degrees yesterday, and just carrying this thing. And my back hurts from last week, and carrying this bloody thing. And do you know what though? I mean, a bit of physical exercise, it's bloody healthy. That's another thing that's really good for your mental health. I know it's not the be all and end all, and if you require certain drugs to, medication each day, that's fine. That shouldn't be villainized. You shouldn't vilified. You shouldn't be told that you're a bad person because you need something to get you through each day. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think that if you need that thing, then you need that thing, and that's fine, right? But also at the same time, getting out of that rut, getting out into nature, getting out into, having a walk. There was a whole stand-up routine I saw years ago about how the suicide rate had declined since they made it difficult to get buy loads of pills from the supermarket. You can only buy like 2 packs of ibuprofen or 2 packs of aspirin or paracetamol at a time. And the joke was that you go, oh, I want to end it, and you go to a supermarket and you're like, okay, I need some paracetamol, and they're like, here you go, have 2 packets. You're like, I can have some more. No, you can't. You have to go to another supermarket. So you walk all the way to the other supermarket, you get another 2 packets, and you walk to another supermarket, get another 2. You walk, and by the time that you've got enough pills, you've actually walked so much that you feel a lot better. Dark humour there, but I don't need these after all. Or maybe if I get a headache. But yeah, thank you very much to Alistair there for the £20. We will use that effectively, and you can watch when we actually put the soil down on the ground. It's a bit overcast today. I'll just show you out here into the bay, into the lagoon. Technically, it's a lagoon. It's very quiet. There's a distant hum of a motorboat moving slowly across the water. A panga. So the boats around here that the locals use are called pangas, and they're developed by Yamaha and the World Bank. Honestly, I'd look it up. It's weird, but it's true. And essentially, it was to create a cheap fiberglass boat for people in developing countries to use that are safe and kind of unsinkable. And they're kind of unsinkable. I mean, they can flip over, and they do sometimes crash into each other because people drive like maniacs around here. But they're pretty much unsinkable, which is really cool. Even if they flip upside down, it's very hard for them to actually sink underwater. No amount of cosmetic surgery can ever hide an ugly attitude, says Acro Dave. Yes, you're right. Yes, no cosmetic procedures. Sorry, Gordon Ramsay, back to Scotland with you. Very similar here in Torbay, fairly overcast. Oh, well, we've got the same weather. That's all good. If Biden was going to step aside, it should have been when he switched with Kamala as a Democratic nominee. I think that he should have stepped aside as nominee, not as president, but as nominee. I think he should have stepped aside like 4 years ago and said Kamala's going to be the next person running. It really, really did matter, and he left it far too late, and I do blame him a lot for the way this has turned out. Maybe he's Magic Grandpa. Part 2. Thoughts on Zuckerberg having dinner with Trump? He, Musk, and Bezos have joined the Trump train. Yes, Matthew, indeed they have. And don't forget Zuckerberg, again, they were using the dark arts of whatever Cambridge Analytica is calling itself these days to promote Trump's agenda on on his platforms. And also, you've got Bezos, who's the owner of the Washington Post now, and he stood in and said that he's not going to allow them to endorse Kamala Harris as president. And that, to me, I mean, this whole election came down to a handful of votes in the end, so every vote mattered, and things like that are really, really, really deeply disturbing. The only thing is that I think about Bezos. I mean, obviously 80% or something mad, right, of Amazon's shit that they sell on Amazon comes from China. So if there's a 25%, 50%, 100% tariff on stuff coming in from China, everything that Amazon sells is going to have to go up in price. And Jeff Bezos isn't going to like that. So if Jeff Bezos has a word with Trump, those tariffs will be unlikely to actually happen. But it'll be another broken Trump promise, like that fucking wall that he said he was going to build that he never built. But he also said, he tried to do things like the Muslim ban. I think he'll do that again, which will come as probably a bit of surprise to the people of Saudi Arabia who supported him. The oligarchs of Saudi Arabia, suddenly they're banned from going to America for a few years until Trump is no longer with us, one way or another. But yeah, by the way, if anyone can do this for me, I'll be really appreciative, okay? Because I know there's a few people out there who are coders, who know the way around writing scripts and stuff. I'll tell you what, could you make me a Trump blocker, right? All it is a simple code, an add-on to Google Chrome, and what it'll do is it'll look at any pictures that come up, and if the word Trump is in the alt text of that picture will just come up as a broken link, or it'll come up blank, or whatever, whatever you need to do to nerf that picture. Because I do not want to see 7 fucking pictures of Donald Judas Trump every day for the next 4 years. I don't want to see that. So if anyone can help me out with that, get on the Discord server and let me know. Only the best election pampering for your needs, indeed. If it makes you feel any better, it's currently 5 degrees C here, says Yoni. Wow! It's cold. Well, apparently it's like -40. It's -40 in the Great Plains area of America. The Great Plains region. Even area is not the right word, is it? Even though it means the same thing. Has anyone noticed that some of those who are against AD, if you mentioned you're a certain persuasion, they would happily do it for you? Has anyone else noticed, this is from Sandy Bill, that some of those against AD, I don't know what AD stands for, sorry, Anno Domini. You need to explain that a bit more to me, sorry. And then we've got cosmetic procedures, Biden, run out of patience with Americans. Thoughts on, I've done that one. When are you entering the I'm a celebrity camp going, when I'm a celebrity? Which is probably never going to happen. I don't have the, I don't know. What do you need? What do you need to be a celebrity in these days? You need to be a bit of a bastard, don't you, by the looks of things? The US was not called the Muslim ban, it was the SH ban. No racism in America, the SH ban. Assisted dying. Oh, the assisted dying, sorry. Okay, so I'll go back to what that message was now that I know what AD stands for. Oh, acronyms at this time of the morning, I can't be dealing with it. They're eating the Huns. Right, trying to find the thing there. Top British comedy. Thoughts on this? Folks suggesting Biden should step aside just to make Harris the 47th president. That'd be quite funny. Yesterday, I happened to be reviewing the top British comedy and the top Monty Python skits on YouTube and realised as an expat, I've been preloaded with a very high level of insight into the UK. Yep, indeed. I love Tolkien too, says Rosie. Everyone should love Tolkien. I've got my bag here. It's my backpack. When I travelled around the world, but you're going to get sick of me saying that, aren't you? When I travelled around the world, I had a backpack not much bigger than this. Anyway, it's got a little thing on here. My girlfriend bought me this for me. And if you read it, can you see what it says? It says, not all those who wander are lost. There you go. Wise words from Gandalf Greyheim, as the men of the Rohirrim called him. I was arguing with them on threads, no accountability for any of them, not pay tax. Indeed, yeah, that's what the rich do. The rich just don't want to pay tax. So I finished my tea, by the way. That was the tea that I bought here. It was all right, I guess. It was all right, but I'm going to have to drink from this massive, massive bottle now, which might be a bit off-putting to some people, so close your ears. There we go. Sorry, it's a bit hot. It's a bit hot. Everyone should love Tolkien, apart from Tansky, who gets a free pass. Yeah, but Tansky really, really loves Legend of Zelda, which wouldn't exist without Tolkien. So, you know, and the one with the grey cloak and staff says one angry pagan. Yeah, maybe you could be Gandalf the Grey and I'll be Gandalf the Shite. Although in my colouring, I'll probably be Radagast, who was played by Sylvester McCoy in the movies, and it was a bit, he had bear shit in his head. I didn't like that. Anyway, Radagast the Fool. There you go. That's my Christopher Lee impression. So yeah, if we're halfway through the show. So if anyone wants to tell me sort of ways that they're using to stay positive over the next few years, or just in general in life, throw them in the chat. I'd love to know what you do. Just tell me. You know, I've explained like the way I try and conceptualize things, and you know, I don't always do it. You know, I don't always like get it right. I don't get anything right, but like I don't always manage to achieve what I'm trying to achieve by thinking of life in the way that I do. And try and, you know, fortify myself against, you know, what's the worst that can happen, and going through that in my head. So I genuinely believe that that it was a hard lesson for me to learn when I was traveling, but just keep smiling. Just keep smiling. Do you know what? 2 reasons. One, it wrong foots your enemies. Like, they just don't know what to do if you're just cheerful about everything. If you're angry, they're happy because they want you to be angry. So if you're cheerful and just making jokes and just taking the piss out of them and ripping them and roasting them, they don't know what to do about that. They really can't handle it because people are laughing, and hopefully they're laughing at them. And I do really think that humor and being cheerful in given situations. And this is a guy telling you this who literally spent 6 days in a Congolese prison cell with no food after losing a rag with the police in Brazzaville in the Republic of Congo. So yeah, trust me on this one. Don't lose your rag. Just keep smiling. When I was taken aside in Iran and the guy wanted to look through every single one of my tapes, like I had to rewind the tape to the beginning and then fast forward the tape on, you know, visual fast forward, so you could watch the whole thing and make sure there was nothing in there that was, you know, taboo. Yeah, just smiled the whole way through. The whole process took about an hour. I was standing at the side of the road in this tin shack made of cinder blocks, freeze blocks with a bit of tin roof on it, and it was so hot. It was just, the sweat was just dripping from my face. And I was just laughing. I was just laughing and going, no, it's just me. I'm a dickhead. Look at me. And he's like, why did you go to Afghanistan? And I went, because I'm a dickhead. And he's like, okay. And he's having a laugh at me, and he offered me a cup of tea. I mean, like, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting a cup of tea being offered from a copper at the side of the road who, like, you know, was like, what's this guy doing? What's this guy doing traveling on his own in Iran? You know? But yeah, there you go. What do you think of Rings of Power? Ian, there's a really, really good TV series in there just trying to get out. I'm really, really disappointed in it. Really disappointed in the way that they've handled the source material, in the way that they've told the story. I just don't understand the decisions that they've made. I don't understand why they have to have Gandalf appearing in the Second Age when he wasn't there. He was there in the First Age. And he was there in the Third Age. He wasn't there in the Second Age. I don't understand what the whole point is of that storyline, like 2 seasons to find out whether it was Gandalf or not. Like, it's a mystery box series. It's not a mystery box. It's fucking Lord of the Rings. And like all this shit with Numenor, which doesn't need to be in it. Like, if I had written, like, it's one of those frustrating things. It's like Star Wars Episode 1 for me. It's taking IP that I really love and respect and just making a dog's dinner of it. and there's moments of brilliance. There's some ideas in there that are fucking great. I love the stuff with the dwarves and the relationship in the first season between Elrond and Dorin, Prince Dorin, and that stuff was fantastic. But Galadriel is eminently unlikable. Making the elves the main characters in some way was kind of a wrong decision. You're not following one person's story in all this. Sauron is just some guy, and he's not as grand as I thought he should have been. He seemed like just a normal bloke when he should have come across as something a bit more ethereal and, a bit more captivating for people. People go, oh, wow, why are you king of the South? It's like, because there's something about him. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't anything about him the whole first season. And yet the whole stuff at Numenor, I would have left that till like the third season or the fourth season. It doesn't need to be involved. It's got nothing to do with the plot of the Forging of the Rings. Like, make the first few seasons, and then the Elvish rings being made first instead of last. So why change that? And then the whole thing about making the rings. Like, you've got a TV show called The Rings of Power, and in the books, or in the Legendarium, it took Celebrimbor like 100 years, or maybe longer, like over 100 years to forge rings of power. And in this, he did them in like 2 weeks. It's just like, oh yeah, here's your ring, mate. And it was just, it became, and all of those years of trying and failing to create these things, it just, I don't know. There's some nice ideas in it, but just such a missed opportunity. I would like to one day own a time machine and have loads of money and have gone to a posh school, and then I could just turn up at the writers' meeting and put down a big stack of cash and say, here's a load of money, writers. You guys fuck off and I'll write this, all right? I'll just write it and it'll be really good. It'll be written by a Tolkien fan who understands pacing, who understands nuance, who understands characterization, who understands that people want to go on a journey with a character, and you can't just have these random characters getting stabbed and then they're all right, or falling off a cliff and then they're all right, and you have someone who trips over a log and they die. Like, I just no. God, they spent so much money on that thing. That makes me really sad. In the same way that Star Wars Episode 1 just makes me really sad that it exists and it wasn't just so much better, and it wasn't the story that I would have written, which would have been bloody fantastic and made you understand and empathize with Anakin's fall to the dark side. You would know exactly why he fell to the dark side, because he felt betrayed by the Jedi, not because he had a bad dream about his wife. I had a bad dream about my wife. I'm going to kill a load of children now. I mean, who does that? This is like Othello, where he finds a handkerchief and he goes, right, that's it, I'm going to kill my wife. I'm like, great writing. Sorry, Shakespeare. No, not to dish your plot fucking points of Othello, but that was a little bit, but in Star Wars Episode 3, when he just goes nuts and kills everyone, it's just like, I'm not quite seeing the pattern there. Like, link that up for me. Link that up for me, George. But yeah, they could have been so much better. But yeah, the Jedis are just pious and boring. The Jedis are very similar to the elves. Like, have them as background characters. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one cares. No one cares about a bunch of space monks who have magic powers. They're boring. They're boring characters. They start the same person, they end the same person. The elves they live for millennia. They start every story the same person that they end the story. They never go on a personal journey of discovery because they're a fucking elf. They're an immortal being. They're boring. Don't follow them. Just have them on the periphery. In the same way that if you're going to make a movie about a historical character, whether it's Amadeus Mozart or Beethoven, don't make them the main character because they can't change, right? So if you're going to make Amadeus, make Salieri the main character. You see the story through his eyes, and then you see everything that happens, and it all kind of makes sense. And you go, yeah, okay, well, that's why Amadeus died of poverty at the age of 33, or however he was. He's quite young when he died. And then you've got Beethoven, you've got Immortal Beloved, Gary Oldman, where it's an investigator looking at trying to find out in the will of Beethoven who this immortal beloved that he left stuff to was, and going back through the story of Beethoven being told through that lens. So if I was going to tell a story of Peter the Great's Grand Embassy around Europe, which is a hell of a story. I can't believe no one's made a movie of it yet. I wouldn't have him as the main character. I would have him as the, I mean, he drives the plot, but he's just a MacGuffin, essentially. And it would be through the eyes of Franz Lefort, who was a Swiss diplomat in the court of Peter the Great. And he was a straight man. And I like the idea of having this mad Russian dictator who's like 6'6" tall and massive beard and just goes around killing people left, right, and centre because he's a fucking psychopath. And against him, you got the straight guy, which is Franz Lefort. So that's the way I would tell the story. But what do I know? I've just seen probably 100,000 films and written a bunch of scripts, and But I think it's the right school. Oh well, story of my life. Right, God, you're gonna regret asking me about Rings of Power now, aren't you? Amadeus agree about that. The whole point of Star Wars was supposed to be the fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker, but he's killed kids, there's no way back, as Valjean said. Yes, Acro Dave. And why did he turn evil? Right? In my script for the Star Wars prequel trilogy, he's basically betrayed by the Jedi. Why is he betrayed by the Jedi? Well, because he's brought in as a teenager, because there's a war going on, the Clone War's going on, they need all the help they can get. And he's coerced into joining the Jedi Order. He doesn't want to. It's basically, you go to the Spice Mines of Kessel or you join us. And then when he joins, he falls in love with Amidala, who's also a Jedi. She's a kick-ass Jedi. She's not just some senator who goes, oh, God, this is a terrible thing that's happening. She actually gets into fights, right? It turns out Obi-Wan and her grew up together, and he's always loved her. He's always fancied her. And she ends up with Anakin, and he's like, Anakin, do you want to go on a suicide mission? You see, then you have a love triangle, you have some drama, you have some, oh my God. So basically, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi's fault that Anakin fell to the dark side. You can see why he was so angry with Anakin. So angry with Obi-Wan. It's all Obi-Wan's fault, the little bastard, which makes sense because then Obi-Wan lied to Luke and said, oh yeah, your dad, he was a great Jedi, he was killed by that Darth Vader bloke. And then he's like, actually, no. A couple of years later, he says, but he was the Darth Vader bloke. Sorry, spoilers. And he's like, yeah, but what I told you was true from a certain point of view. No, it fucking wasn't. What are you on about, Obi? You dickhead. It's not true at all. You literally said this person killed your dad, which is the absolute opposite of this guy is your dad. Like, what? But yeah, so having that sort of the flame of animosity between them, and then that, the poisoning of the Jedi Order as a result, and why Anakin will go in with the Emperor to take the Jedi down, because he's like, fuck these guys, they tried to kill me, Obi-Wan's a two-faced bastard, and, screw you all to hell. And that would make so much more sense and be so much more relatable to all of us who've ever been fucked over in love by a good friend. But Jar Jar was in love with Padme and set Obi-Wan and Anakin against each other so he could have his lover. I'm not doing that one. He turns to the dark side because the hovers of sand, yes. It's so coarse, isn't it? It's not like smooth and oh my God, that was all just so bad, wasn't it? The falling in love. That's not how you fall in love in an action movie. You fall in love in an action movie because you sort of don't like each other at first, and then you learn respect for each other because of your abilities, and then eventually you're like, hey, I think I've got the hots for you because you're so cool. Like, I didn't know you could do all this stuff when I first met you. Sorry for taking the piss. Ta-da! And then you just have a kiss at the end of the movie, and that's it. You're together. This whole thing of like, could you imagine Indiana Jones explaining to, Marion, like, why he liked her? No, we had that brilliant scene where she was tending to his cuts and his bruises, and she's like, I hate you. That's so cool. That's what I love about the dynamic of Indiana Jones and Marion in the first indie movie. Like, she hates him. She's like, get out, the first thing she does when she sees him, she punches him in the face. Brilliant. That's so cool. After winning a drinking competition against some big fat Nepalese guy. Like, fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then, eventually she, that scene where they're on the boat and she's tending to his cuts and he says, where doesn't it hurt? And he goes, here. And she kisses. And then all that stuff, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And just like, the same team, the same people, the same goddamn people that made Indiana Jones made Star Wars Episode 1 pretty much. And yeah, drop the ball. My God, drop the ball. Critical Drinker had some good uplift for fixing Star Wars 2. Graham has breath beyond labouring in the sun. Donkey, but the Critical Drinker's a bit, he's a transphobe and a misogynist, and he He's funny at first, and then the more videos of his you watch, you realize that he's one of these. He's kind of like a nerd honey trap. He's the equivalent of like a TikTok video with a lady with large bosoms with a bikini going. And then like you go, oh, wow, watch this. This should be interesting. And then they're trying to sell you fucking timeshare deals or something. He's the geek equivalent of that. He gets you on board. And you know, this guy's quite funny and does make some good points about why some movies are better than others and whatever. But when it comes down to it, he is quite sexist. And yeah, I don't think that his appraisals on why like the sequel trilogy didn't work. I don't think it was the fault of Ren. There were a bunch of other problems with them, which, you know, it wasn't just one. For Anakin, it must have been like for a devout Catholic and finding out that the church was a massive child trafficking gang. Yes, Akro Day. But no, I mean, he's not in my version. He's not a devout Catholic. He's not a devout Jedi. He joins the Jedi Order best. Obi-Wan basically forces him to join it, or him and his brother will go to the Space Man's Castle. Well, not his brother, but his mate. Will go to the Space Man's Castle. George Lucas has some great ideas, but needs someone else, Spielberg, to steer here a bit, and someone else to write dialogue. That is very true. Well, Leah Brackett, who worked on the script for Empire Strikes Back, and it was one of the last scripts she ever worked on. I mean, she was a scriptwriter from the golden era of Hollywood. I mean, she wrote film noirs back in like the 1940s and stuff. And she's probably the line, you know, I love you, I know. That was probably Leah Brackett who did that. Was it Charles and Leah Brackett? And You Are Not Those Things That Critical has really leaned into. His American mates are a big influence. Episode 3 really annoyed me how Lucas felt. He had to tie up those loose ends, such as who Luke and Leia was and who the father was. It ruined the big reveal in The Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, again, like that's something that I wouldn't have done. That's something that I absolutely would not have done. I would have just left it. Like, you know, Anakin is, you know, he looks like, he seems to be dead by the end of it. He seems to be dead. And the Clone Wars are now over, but the Empire is now rising, and oh shit, the Jedi are in trouble, you know. And that's it, you know, leave it on a cliffhanger. Why not? You're right, because the way to watch Star Wars, actually, if you want to do it, you know, if your kids haven't seen it, watch episode 4, episode 5, then watch 1, 2, 3, and then watch episode 6. Because then 1, 2, 3 acts as a kind of like a prequel to, you know, once the big reveal that he is the father, then you go back and you find out the story. But then again, maybe just skip the prequels. They're not that good. But his earliest work showed off his true self. Are you talking about George Lucas here with THX 1138 and American Graffiti? People can be rehabbed from being misogynist, Shirley. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. No teddy bears in 6. What the Ewoks? Yeah, that wasn't a great decision, was it? Lucas is a great ideas man. Should have done with him what they did with Akira Toriyama. Just go to him for ideas and advice for what they should do and let them chill. Yeah. I think he is a great ideas man. I mean, George Lucas revolutionized Hollywood, and I will forever be grateful to him for that. He pushed for special effects like you would not believe. The reason why Pixar exists is because of George Lucas. The reason why ILM exists, the reason why LucasArts games, which was so good in the 1990s, exist. Day of the Tentacle and Full Throttle and Monkey Island and all that lot. Sam and Max Hit the Road. That's all because of Lucas. I mean, he invented Indiana Jones and Star Wars. I mean, that'll do for me. Yeah, and then the push towards digital sound editing and then digital film was remarkable and really pushed movies in a direction that meant that movies like Avatar could exist. TV series like The Mandalorian, which I know is a Star Wars thing, but using the volume that technology all came about because of George Lucas. I mean, Adobe Photoshop, which I used this morning to make the thumbnail for this, came about because of George Lucas. Like the amount of knock-on effects that he's had, and amount of movies that have been made because of George Lucas. In the same way that Nirvana made an entire generation of young people pick up a guitar and start strumming. he did that for filmmakers, and there were loads of filmmakers who are probably like very pretentious about it all now, you know, you Christopher Nolan's and stuff. But by God, they were inspired by Star Wars. They watched Star Wars as kids and went, I want to make movies like that. I want to make movies. And as such, his legacy is very, very solid. And I just wish that we could, I don't know, we could sort of separate the art from the artists. Because in this case, it's not the artist being problematic, which is the usual way around these things go. It's the art being crap, because episode 1, the most expensive, privately funded movie of all time, independent movie. It was an indie movie. It wasn't paid for by a studio. George Lucas paid for it himself. He employed everyone himself. It was all Lucasfilm. It was distributed by 20th Century Fox, but that was it. Like the actual production of the film and all the money that went into it was George Lucas, so no one wants to say no to him. He's just surrounded by yes men. Our boys aren't allowed to watch episode 1 to 3. How did Anakin's original lightsaber show up with Maz Kanata? I have no idea. Don't know, don't care. Grim Fandango, yes, the greatest game of all time. The greatest, I mean, just the Grim Fandango, I kind of wish that Pixar would make a movie of that, but they can't really now because they made Coco and it'll just be too similar. But what a story! What an absolute story! The 4-year journey through the land of the dead that really, really inspired me. And I probably don't give Grim Fandango enough credit in my writings, because I talk about, you know, what inspired me to go traveling, what inspired me to live the life that I've lived. And I often talk about my dad, traveling around, you know, camping trips around Europe as a kid, and Michael Palin's Around the World in 80 Days. I often talk about that. I sometimes talk about the music that inspired me. Radiohead, especially, you know, and Blair, but Radiohead, you know, doing songs where like, why do you want a job in an office? That sounds really boring. Why don't you do something else with your life? I didn't know at the time that Radiohead were all private school kids, so obviously they could do what they, because Daddy could make a phone call and help them out. But having said that, it did have a measurable impact on my life. Like, it's not one of Blair's best songs, but Ernald's Same really resonated with me. No Surprises by Radiohead really, really resonated with me, of like, what kind of life do I want to lead? You know, No Surprises came out when I was 18. Actually, I first heard it when I was 17. Acoustic version with slightly different lyrics in 1996, and the warm-up gig that Radiohead did at the Manchester Apollo. If anyone watching this was at that gig, yeah, we were treated to. They used the glockenspiel in the original in the final version, but I'm pretty sure it was acoustic on guitar, and the lyrics were slightly different from what I remember. But, you know, give me a break. It was 30 years ago. Howard the Duck is enjoying IP. Yes, indeed, Howard the Duck. What a character. That's basically, if it wasn't for Howard the Duck, Pixar wouldn't have been sold to Steve Jobs. Isn't that mad? So if it wasn't for the failure of Howard the Duck, Pixar may not exist. There you go. By all accounts, episodes 7 to 9 were meant to be about Metachlorians. I'm sure it would have been riveting. Yeah, what Lucas did for filmmaking is more important. Absolutely. George and Stephen praised James Bigley on AFC event a couple of years ago. James? Honey Trap comparison for Drinker is great. I can see him being a gateway into lots of conservative ideas, specifically great replacement for young men wanting to learn more about the new Marvel movie. Yes, David, we need to emulate that, but in the other way. So I think a film show with me and Tansky swearing about films where we actually talk about stuff like this, and she talks about the Bechdel test. Is the Bechdel test something like that? Where how many conversations do women have with each other that aren't about the men in this movie? And there's so many movies where that just doesn't happen. Also, Lucas was pretty chill when it came to people making fan films, which isn't too common, sadly. Yeah, my mate works for ILM. Started out as a kitchen illustrator before joining Psygnosis. Oh, Psygnosis! Shadow of the Beast. And Lemmings, of course. Lemmings DMA Design, which eventually became Rockstar, which ended up making Grand Theft Auto, the biggest money-making video game series of all time after Pokemon, I think. They need a Pixar spin-off to make grown-up films. Yeah, Ned. That's a really good idea. Then again, I mean, all the Pixar films I think can be enjoyed by grown-ups. I mean, they always make me cry. Like Pixar, how dare you? Every fucking Pixar movie, apart from The Good Dinosaur, which was shit. Which honestly, no, probably A Bug's Life. Makes me cry. Star Wars inspired people to make films like The Pistols playing the Free Trade Hall in Manchester. Only a few people there, but everyone who went and formed the band. Yeah, I was going to mention The Pistols actually. I said Nirvana, but yeah, The Pistols are another example of. It's not just what they did; it's what they inspired. That wouldn't have happened had it not been for them. I saw Nirvana in Bradford when I was 15. That's very cool, super tiny. David Faulkner, 38 Hong Kong dollars. Thank you very much. The act of helping you carry on this immense battle helps me to feel a better person today than I was yesterday. Oh, thank you, David. That's so kind of you, all the way from Hong Kong. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. They're a lot less wanky than Cooler Shaker. Oh God, Cooler Shaker, don't get me started. If you go down to the forest of Endor, you're sure for a big surprise. For there before you arrive, you'll find cute but savage little teddy bears. Yes, indeed. I'm Radiohead in '94 in Manchester Academy. I have a computer-based job now, but I'm ill today. Yeah, I first saw Radiohead in '95. Oh no, maybe it was '96. Yeah, I think the first time I saw Radiohead live, I'll have to check my tickets. Yeah, maybe I saw them 3 times in '97. I saw them at Glastonbury. I saw them play the 9X, and I saw them at the Manchester Empress Ballroom. And I got the set lists for all 3 of them. I got the set lists, and the set list for Empress Ballroom ended with The Tourist, but they actually did a cover of Nobody Does It Better by Carly Simon. Because I asked them to play it. I was at the front row and I went, can you do No One Does It Better? And he went, all right. And they played it. I changed history, like for the better, like Sam Beckett, quantum leaping onto that gig in 1997 at the Empress Ballroom in Blackpool. And Johnny Lydon involved into Public Image Limited with the song Rise, the rallying call of post-punk action, Anger is Energy. Yeah, shame he's turned into a big bloody fucking Brexit loving nutter now, isn't he? Big gammon. Pixies are a band that are underappreciated. They influence both Corbin and York. Pixies are fucking magic, mate. One of my favourite bands in the world. I could listen to Santa Rosa or Surfer Rosa all day. Santa Rosa. David Smith, a joke. 2 women in a cafe. One asks the other, have you ever heard of the Bechdel test? She responds, yeah, my boyfriend told me about it. Toy Story made you... Yes, Toy Story made me cry. What about in Toy Story 3 when they're about to go into the obliterator and he holds on and they're all holding hands and they're all going to... Come on, man. Sorry. Inspiration comes from what has been important to re-examine, reimagine. I saw Radiohead at Glastonbury in '97. Diz, I was there. I've got the set list. There you go. In fact, one of my set lists that I managed to pick up was one for the Arctic Monkeys in about 2007 at Glasgow. And it actually says at the bottom, congratulations, you're now the proud owner of an Arctic Monkeys set list, which is really cool. Art script nowadays assessed not on their own merits, but on their potential to form a franchise of sequels and prequels. There's not much. If you want to make a tentpole release, it's very difficult to make something that's not already existing IP. Which is where the really interesting movies that are getting made, and this has always been the case, are the sort of mid-level movies that are just a bit kooky and just run with it. I think Poor Things, which was I thought was phenomenal. I know some people have a problem with the messaging in it, but I felt like Bella Baxter, they like totally kicked ass and basically got what she wanted in the end. And The Substance, which is one of the best movies I've ever seen. But it's an indie film. I mean, effectively, it's a small budget film, and it's gruesome. And I would never recommend anyone else to ever watch it because it's just so messed up. However, it's just brilliant. I'm never going to watch it again ever because, yeah, just a brilliant use of. Actually, Poor Things based on a book? You're going to tell me that Poor Things is based on a book now? I think it was. Shit. Okay. Well, The Substance is an original idea, but yeah, there is a dearth of original IP. For movies in Hollywood at the moment because of, I don't think it's not just they want to make a franchise out of everything. It's also like they need things to be successful. and they feel like if it's not already IP that people are aware of, then it's not going to make any money. But Kraven the Hunter just came out to like make about 20 million at the US box office, and Morbius made bugger all money, and Madam Web, which I kind of weirdly want to watch because it's meant to be so bad. Like I want to watch it to assess it. Like here's how not to make a movie. Yeah, Super Tiny, have a good day and get well. Super Tiny, get well, get well, get well soon. Thanks, Super Tiny. More than that, they were recording in the same building. Rotten kept slagging him off, so Mercury pinned him to a wall and politely told him to do one, and they never met again. Oh my God, wow. Apparently, Freddie Mercury met Johnny Rotten, couldn't remember his name, called him Sid Ferocious. Apparently, did appreciate it. Yeah, Johnny Rotten's a bit of a tit. I have a few set lists, autographs, and ticket memory collection. Yeah, it's always good. It's always good to go down memory lane. Although, you know, the kids today, they'll be able to remember all the gigs they went to because they'll have recorded them all on their phones. We didn't have that opportunity back in the day. Back in the day, we didn't have that opportunity. But yeah, anyway, we should get off films for a moment and look at TV shows and Rings of Power. I was just going to say that I think that I would like to see more IP, more original IP being made, and the idea that just because something has already been published as a comic book or already been made into a film and you're remaking it, whatever, doesn't necessarily equate success, especially if the film is no good. So you look at like the Fantastic Four movie that came out in like 2016. That was, you know, the Josh Trank one, which was just bloody awful, and everyone slated it. I mean, it's no good. I mean, a lot of the sort of the latter MCU films have been a bit, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. See, that's the noise the bird just made over there. But there you go. The Rampage film was surprisingly entertaining. Yeah. my bird friend is back. Hi. What's going on? This makes the maddest noises. You make the maddest noises. Yes, you do. Have you found a friend yet? He makes this noise like some like really old person with like bronchial lungs, like laughing. It's the weirdest noises. Anyway, my first gig was 1986, the Style Council in Bournemouth. Nice. Blue Tones, always good. The Fantastic Four films got so bad that the first one looks quite good in comparison. Yeah, indeed. Maybe we should change copyright rules so they become public domain once they've made 7 films. That's a brilliant idea, Ned. I love that. Bird noses on camera. At Sony, getting new game IPs signed off for production company is signed up for production is pretty much impossible these days. Yeah, which is a shame. And one of the things that I really loved about the LucasArts era of point and click adventures, really, I mean, people talk about Maniac Mansion and Zack McCracken, but it really started with Monkey Island. So if you look at the phase from Monkey Island, 1990 to Loom, I love the story of Loom. Loom had such a really great narrative. It was so clever. It was so interesting, and I wish it had been explored more. They're originally going to make like a trilogy of them. Yeah, I'll go for Monkey Island, 1990 to Grim Fandango, 1997. And just that period. I know there was a couple of things where they made something based on some other IP. I mean, Sam and Max Hit the Road obviously was based on a comic. And Indiana Jones and the Face of Atlantis, which was just fantastic. I mean, just as a Indiana Jones story blows, what's it called, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and the anti-key and mechanism of time, whatever, that diabolical diode. What was it called? The Dial of Destiny. Jesus. Blows them out of the water. Next gig, 1987, The Moody Blues. Oh, I love The Moody Blues. I generally dug the earlier Fantastic Four films. Chris Evans at his best. My first gig was June Table in Edinburgh in 1995. My first gig was Slade in 1982. Wow. Series 1 was Redonkulous. I found a Fantastic Four film that was on YouTube but not released. Probably the best Fantastic Four film I've seen. Oh, yeah. That was to do with they had to keep the copyright, and in order to keep the copyright to keep making the movies, or the rights to make the movies, they had to make a movie. So they just made like this really shit, zero effort, zero budget movie. just to keep hold of the rights. There are 4 Fantastic Four movies, only 3 released officially, and only 2 were made to be movies. The first unreleased one and Trank one were just made to retain the rights. That's the problem with art in general. Money people take control and they don't understand the art. It's just a commodity. Yeah. But the thing is, in the 80s, there were so many more original ideas. Like, just off the top of my head, Gremlins, Back to the Future, Karate Kid, The Goonies, Indiana Jones, obviously Star Wars. It's the 70s, but 1980, 83. They were not based on any other. Star Wars was ripped off a lot of other stuff, but they weren't based on some other IP. And I think we missed that now. We could do with having some more stories told as films, and that's why The Substance, I think, works so well, because it's a movie. It would only work as a movie. It just wouldn't work as a book. It wouldn't really work as a radio play or a TV series. It comes in, tells this really horrific story of body horror and the fear of aging and misogyny and sexism and everything. It's such a great story, and it could only really work in my head as a film, not as a stage play, not as a comic book. You're going to tell me that it's based on a comic book now, aren't you? I worked on the 28 Days Later sequels this year. It was a fun gig. Hopefully an original script next year, preferably fantasy or historical-ish. There's a new Monkey Island game, by the way. It's quite good. Yeah, Ian, it was around 2 years ago. I played it on this island. I did like a Twitch stream where I played it. Didn't get very far. I like the Magnetic Skulls text adventure games. The text adventure is something that died of death. I preferred Ishtar. The first gig was Ocean Colour Scene. I'm so sorry, mate. Teen Wolf, Lost Boys, Princess Bride. Books different. Lost Boys was based on... Well, no, it wasn't based on Peter Pan, was it? Okay, yeah, it was based on Dracula. Princess Bride. So Princess Bride was the film, and then William Golding wrote the book based on the film, didn't he? It came afterwards, so yeah, that's quite interesting. The same thing happened with 2001: A Space Odyssey. Fact, fans. The script was written first with Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick, and then Arthur C. Clarke went back over the script and wrote a novelization of the script. Novelizations, remember them? And relatively speaking, movies in the 80s were cheaper to make, even adjusted for inflation. Which is mad, because with the way special effects are these days, it should be cheaper to make movies. I don't really understand that, and they don't pay the special effects people enough. The special effects companies go out of business, which we can talk about. Hi, Blackbird. Are you feeling good today? Yeah? Oh, he gave me a little yes. Oh. I can't quite believe he makes that noise with his beak on his mouth. It's just so weird. It's just you make such a weird noise, Mr. Blackbird. Do you want to see him? I think you might be able to make him out. I mean, it might be too far away, but he's just there. If you look, oh, there you go, just flew away. Oh, he's gone. Right, I've got, talking of going, I've got to go. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the chat. I love the fact that we started every one of these shows and we go, and this is what we're going to talk about today, and then completely fail to actually talk about that thing. We talk about Ocean Colour Scene, indie music for people who didn't really like indie music. You're going to start a fight. You're going to start a fight in the chat, Lee. But yes, I agree. I was never part of the Ocean Colour Scene. I was never keen on Keen. Let me put it that way. Yeah, Cooler never shook my shaker. Anyway, see you, Graham. Hope the Pass the Bush took a trial. I've eaten some messed up stuff, so I probably would actually. And then, did you like Eyes Wide Shut? I loved it. Great end to his career. Yes, I did like it, and I can see why some people absolutely hate it. I can see why some people have a real problem with it. I think it's kind of problematic, but you see, not all movies have to be moral. And one of my friends absolutely hated Eyes Wide Shut, and I understand the reason for hating it. It was basically a married couple. The wife has a sexual fantasy about somebody else, and the guy goes, "Oh my god, I can't handle this," and goes off on this odyssey around the sketchier areas of New York, and ends up at some weird baroque orgy, posh, elite, aristocratic sex fest. Yeah, you can watch it and go, what a dick. But I think that's the point. I think that's the point. Like how fragile men's egos are. And if you look at it from that point of view, then it's great. You know, it's Kubrick, you know, what's not to love? But yeah, watching back some of his films, they are a little bit. There are moments there with very, very unsettling stuff happening. I mean, Clockwork Orange being the most famous example. But yeah. Cannibal Ferox was very disturbing. Crispin Mills turned out to have Hitler issues. He did. Probably went to private school. Anyway, right, I'm going. Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks for the super chats. If you want to help out with the island, I'm only here for 3 more days. If you want to help us out, get a bit more soil in before I go. We're nearly done. We've only got 2 more spots of the island that need sort of putting soil on them to stop the place from flooding. Hopefully, when I leave on Sunday, the island won't flood again until I get back. Before, you know, I'm hoping to come back here in March next year and just, you know, tart the place up a little bit, make it look nice, and hopefully get someone involved who wants to do it up. And then I'll have a special offer where, like, if you want to come and stay for a little while on this island that has all mod cons, you get 50% off just for supporting me over the years, because, you know, thank you. Anyway, I better go now before I start getting all gooey. You take care, and until next time, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and